The sun is dying. Nat Turner stands at the edge of Cabin Pond, watching the sky darken at 3 in the afternoon. Around him, 5 enslaved men, his closest followers, shift nervously as the temperature drops and birds go silent. The sun has turned a sickly greenish blue, its light wrong somehow, unnatural. Then it begins to disappear behind the moon, and the world slides into daytime darkness. The sign. Hark Moore whispers. Hark is Nat's oldest friend, a giant of a man at 6 feet tall, his arms thick from years of field work. The spirit said there would be a sign. Nat nods slowly. His eyes, intense, burning, the eyes of a prophet, never leave the blackened sun. He is 30 years old, small at just 5 feet 6 inches, thin from fasting. But when he speaks, his voice carries the weight of divine authority. God has darkened the sun, Nat says, just as he darkened the sky when his son died on the cross. Tonight we begin. We kill every white person we encounter, men, women, children, everyone. No mercy. This is what the Spirit commands. Nat. Nelson Williams, 19 years old, the youngest of the group, swallows hard. Nat, I trust your visions, but killing babies? Nat turns those burning eyes on Nelson. The intensity makes Nelson want to look away, but he forces himself to hold Nat's gaze. Did you read Deuteronomy like I told you? Nat asks. I can't read, Nat. You know that. Then I'll tell you what God said to the Israelites when they conquered the Promised Land. He said, "You shall destroy them completely. You shall make no covenant with them and show them no mercy." The Israelites killed every Canaanite child when God commanded them to take their freedom. Are we less righteous than the Israelites? Is our bondage less cruel than theirs? The eclipse is total now. Darkness at midday. The men can barely see each other's faces. Sam Francis, enslaved to Salathiel Francis, a harsh master who beats his workers bloody for minor infractions, speaks up from the shadows. I'll kill whoever you say, Nat. I've been beaten my whole life. Watched my wife raped by the overseer, had my children sold away. I'll kill them all and die free. Will Francis, no relation to Sam, but enslaved to a different Francis family, grunts agreement. Will is known throughout Southampton County for his strength and his rage. He's been whipped so many times his back is a map of scars. When he speaks, his voice is flat. Dead. Tell me where to put the hatchet and I'll put it there. Man, woman, child don't matter. They're all complicit. The sun begins to return, blood red and terrible. Light creeps back into the world, but it's wrong light, apocalyptic light, the light of God's wrath. Nat speaks clearly so all 6 men can hear. We start at Joseph Travis's house, 2 miles from here. We wait until after midnight when everyone sleeps. Kill Travis, his wife, Putnam Moore, Nat's legal owner, technically. The apprentice boy, any children. We take their weapons. Then we move farm to farm. Kill everyone. Take more weapons. Recruit more men. By dawn we'll have 20 fighters. By noon, 50. We'll march to Jerusalem, the county seat. Seize the armory. Arm ourselves properly, then retreat south to the Dismal Swamp, where we'll establish a free black nation. Ark shifts his weight. Nat, you know they'll send militia. Hundreds of armed white men. We can't fight them all. We don't need to fight them all. We need to make them bleed. Make them understand that slavery cannot continue without blood. For 200 years they've made us bleed. Tonight we make them bleed. And when I hang, and I will hang, Hark, I know this. When I hang, They'll remember that an enslaved man made Virginia tremble. The men stand in silence as the eclipse ends and full daylight returns. They know what Nat is asking. They know they'll probably all die within days. But they also know they're already dead. Dead men walking. Enslaved for life. Their children enslaved after them. No hope of freedom except through blood. Anyone who wants to leave, leave now, Nat says. Once we start, there's no mercy. Not for them. Not for us. No one leaves. They wait until 11 p.m., then walk through the darkness toward Joseph Travis's farm. In the next 48 hours, they will kill at least 60 white people. And when it's over, when Nat is captured and hanged, Virginia will desecrate his corpse in ways so grotesque they'll be whispered about for 2 centuries. Skin him, render his flesh into grease, distribute his bones as trophies, make purses from his skin that some Virginia families allegedly still possess. But that horror is still 3 months away. Right now, in the darkness of August 21st, 1831, Nat Turner and his 5 followers are walking toward their first murders. And Nat's mind is not on the killing. It's on the visions that brought him here. The voices that told him God chose him to free his people, no matter the cost in blood. Before we witness the massacre, we must understand the prophet. We must go back 30 years to understand how an enslaved child became convinced God commanded him to kill. Alon is younger. Southampton County, Virginia, October 2nd, 1800. Nancy holds her newborn son and examines him carefully in the dim light of the slave cabin. She's looking for marks, birthmarks, unusual features, anything that might indicate destiny. And she finds them. Strange markings on his head and chest that she interprets as signs from God. This child will be great, Nancy tells the other enslaved women gathered in the cabin. He will never be a slave. God has chosen him. It's a dangerous thing to say. Gives hope that will likely be crushed. But Nancy believes it with fierce certainty that radiates from her like heat. She names the baby Nat, just Nat. No last name because enslaved people don't get last names, and begins raising him as if he's destined for more than bondage. Benjamin Turner, who owns Nancy and her infant son, finds the scene amusing when he hears about it. Nancy thinks her baby is special. Well, we'll see. Stranger things have happened. He notes the birth in his property ledger. Nat, son of Nancy, born October 2nd, 1800. That's all. No more documentation than a calf born in spring. 1803. The child who knows things. Nat is 3 years old when the other enslaved people first notice something odd. He's playing near the overseer's cabin when he suddenly says, "That's where the fight happened." When the 2 men fought over the woman and one got stabbed, the adults exchanged glances. The fight happened in 1797, 4 years before Nat was born. No one has told him about it. The cabin has been repaired. No bloodstains remain. How do you know about that fight, child? Nancy asks carefully. Nat looks confused. I saw it, didn't I? No, baby. You weren't born yet. Then, the Spirit showed me. The adults fall silent. The Spirit, capital S. This 3-year-old child is claiming divine visions. Nancy tests him, asks about other events from before his birth. Nat describes them accurately, events he couldn't possibly know. Old injuries, old arguments, old scandals. Things no one discusses around children. Word spreads through the slave quarters. Nancy's boy sees things, knows things. The Spirit speaks to him. 1804 to 1807. Learning to read. Nat teaches himself to read at age 4. No one is teaching him. Benjamin Turner doesn't educate his enslaved workers. Literacy is dangerous. makes enslaved people harder to control. But Nat watches Turner's children doing their lessons, watches the tutor point at letters and make sounds. He intuits the connection between marks on paper and spoken words. One day, when he's 4, Nat picks up a book left on the porch, a Bible, and begins reading aloud. Genesis chapter 1. In the beginning, God created the heaven and the earth. The tutor hears and comes running. Who taught you to read? No one, Nat says simply. I just can. Word spreads among the White family. The slave child Nat can read without being taught. They test him with different books. He reads them all fluently. It's considered remarkable, a curiosity, proof that some Negroes have unusual intelligence, even if the race as a whole is inferior. They show him off to visitors like a trained dog performing tricks. But to Nancy and the enslaved community, it's confirmation. The Spirit has blessed this child. God is preparing him for something. By age 7, Nat is reading the Bible obsessively. It's the only book enslaved people have regular access to. Masters allow it because they think Christianity makes enslaved people docile, teaches them to accept bondage. But Nat doesn't read the parts about servants obeying masters. He reads Exodus, Moses leading enslaved Israelites out of Egypt. He reads Judges, Samson destroying the Philistines. He reads Revelation, blood and fire and the end of an evil world. 1807. The first vision. Nat is 7 years old, playing alone by a stream, when the vision hits him like a lightning bolt. He sees white spirits and black spirits fighting in the heavens. Sees blood flowing in streams. Sees the sun darkened and thunder rolling. Sees himself standing in the middle of the battle with a sword in his hand, leading the black spirits against the white. The vision is so vivid, so real, that Nat falls to his knees, gasping. When it ends, he runs back to the slave quarters and tells his mother everything. Nancy listens carefully. When Nat finishes, she says, "The Spirit is showing you the future. The war between white and black. You will lead it. But not yet. You're still a child. God is preparing you." From that day forward, Nat begins preparing. He fasts, goes days without eating, drinking only water, while praying and reading scripture. He withdraws from other children, spending hours alone in the woods, communing with God. The other enslaved people think he's strange, intense, off-putting. But they also respect him. By age 10, they're calling him the prophet. 1810. Another vision. Nat is 10, working in the tobacco fields under a brutal August sun. The overseer is shouting, cracking his whip. Nat's hands are bleeding from pulling tobacco leaves. His back aches. He's thinking about running away when the vision comes. He sees himself standing on a mountain with God, showing him all the kingdoms of the earth. God speaks, not in words, but directly into Nat's mind. "You will shake these kingdoms. You will make them tremble. Blood must be spilled before freedom comes." Asterisk. That night, Nat tells his mother, "God is calling me to fight, to kill white people, to free our people." Nancy holds her son's face in her calloused hands. "Then you must obey. But wait for the sign. God will tell you when the time is right. Until then, be patient, learn, grow strong, and when the sign comes, do what must be done." Nat is 10 years old, being told by his mother that God wants him to kill people. Most 10-year-olds would be traumatized by this. But Nat feels only clarity, purpose. He has a mission. He just needs to wait for God's signal. He will wait 21 more years. When I was younger, 1810 to 1815, teenage years. Nat's teenage years are marked by increasing religious intensity and growing alienation from both enslaved and white communities. He fasts regularly, sometimes going 3 or 4 days without eating. His body becomes gaunt, bones visible through skin. Other enslaved people worry he'll kill himself. You need to eat, Nat. Hawk Moore tells him one evening. Hawk is 14. Nat is 13. They've been friends since childhood. You're wasting away. I'm preparing, Nat says. Moses fasted 40 days in the wilderness. Jesus fasted 40 days before beginning his ministry. I must prepare my body to be a vessel for the Spirit. Vessel for what? For what's coming. Nat won't elaborate. Can't elaborate because he doesn't fully understand yet what God is calling him to do. He just knows it will be violent, apocalyptic, necessary. By age 15, Nat is preaching to other enslaved people in secret nighttime gatherings in the woods. Virginia law forbids enslaved people from holding religious meetings without white supervision, but they do it anyway. Nat speaks about Moses, about David and Goliath, about God delivering the oppressed and destroying the oppressors. The other enslaved people listen with a mix of hope and fear. Hope because Nat speaks of freedom. Fear because he speaks of blood. 1816. The escape and return. When Nat is 17, he does something shocking. He runs away, escapes from Benjamin Turner's plantation, and hides in the woods for 30 days. He could try to reach free states, could attempt permanent escape. But after 30 days, Nat returns voluntarily. The other enslaved people are stunned. Why did you come back? Hawk asks. You were free. You could have made it north. Nat's response makes no sense. The Spirit commanded me to return to my master and serve faithfully. I have work to do here. What work could possibly require returning to slavery? The enslaved community concludes that Nat is either insane or genuinely prophetic. Either way, he's marked as different. The whites hear about his voluntary return and are pleased. Here's a Negro who knows his place, who recognizes that slavery is his natural condition. They don't understand that Nat returned not out of submission, but out of obedience to God. He has a mission, and the mission requires him to stay in Southampton County. 1821. Benjamin Turner dies. Nat is sold. When Benjamin Turner dies, Nat, now 21 years old, is sold to Turner's son, Samuel. This is Nat's first experience of being sold, of being literally put on an auction block and evaluated like livestock. He's examined, teeth checked, muscles felt, body scrutinized. A potential buyer says, he's small, but he can read. Probably good for housework. Samuel Turner buys him for $400. Samuel is cruel where Benjamin was relatively benign. He beats enslaved workers for minor infractions, works them longer hours, provides less food. Under Samuel, Nat experiences slavery's hardest realities. In 1822, Samuel Turner dies suddenly. Some whisper he was poisoned by enslaved people, though nothing is ever proven. Nat passes to Thomas Moore, Samuel's son-in-law. Now Nat is property of a man younger than himself, a man he knew as a boy, who now owns him completely. The indignity burns. Nat has been bought and sold like a chair. His intelligence means nothing. His prophetic gifts mean nothing. He's property. The visions intensify. Parts of the web. May 12th. 1825. The blood vision. Nat is working alone in Thomas Moore's cornfield when the vision overwhelms him. He falls to his knees, eyes rolling back, body convulsing as the Spirit shows him blood on the corn stalks, hieroglyphic characters and numbers written in blood. and forms of men, drawings in blood showing crucifixion, showing suffering, showing death. When the vision ends, Nat staggers to his feet and examines the corn. To his eyes, the blood is real. The characters are visible. The Spirit is showing him Christ's crucifixion and linking it to what Nat must do. That night he tells Hark everything. Christ was crucified to save humanity from sin. I must be crucified. Must shed blood and have my blood shed. To save our people from slavery. The Spirit has shown me this clearly now. I must kill. And I must die for it. Both are necessary. Hark stares at his friend with mix of awe and horror. You're talking about starting a war? Yes. You're talking about killing white people, women and children too? The Spirit said, let it come rough or smooth, you must surely bear it. I must kill them all, and I will die for it. Both are God's will. February 1828. The baptism. Nat becomes a licensed Baptist preacher, unusual for an enslaved person, but not impossible. Some masters allow enslaved preachers, thinking Christianity makes workers more obedient. But Nat's preaching is not about obedience. He preaches about deliverance, about Moses drowning Pharaoh's army in the Red Sea, about God's judgment on evil nations. In February 1828, Nat does something scandalous. He baptizes a white man named Brantley, an enslaved man baptizing a white man. It reverses the racial hierarchy in a shocking way. Whites who witness it are furious. How dare a Negro claim religious authority over a white person? But Brantley insists. He believes Nat is a genuine prophet. The baptism proceeds in a creek, with both white and black witnesses watching in stunned silence as Nat, a slave, submerges Brantley, a free white man, in the water and pronounces him cleansed. After this, Nat's reputation as prophet is cemented. Even whites who hate him admit he has unusual spiritual authority. 1830. Sold again to Joseph Travis. Thomas More dies. Another suspicious death. 3 of Nat's owners have died unexpectedly. Nat becomes property of Sally Frances Moore, Thomas's widow. Then, in 1831, Sally marries Joseph Travis, a wheelwright. Nat now belongs to Travis. Travis is actually relatively kind master by Virginia standards. He doesn't beat Nat unnecessarily, allows him privileges, treats him with a measure of respect. This matters, because when Nat kills Travis in August, it won't be revenge against personal cruelty. It will be ideological execution. Travis must die not because he's individually evil, but because he's white and part of the slavery system. Nat is past personal grievances now. He's operating on cosmic level. February 12th, 1831. The eclipse sign. A solar eclipse darkens Virginia. Nat interprets this as the signal. The time is approaching when the first should be last, and the last should be first. He gathers his core followers, Hark Moore, Nelson Williams, Henry Porter, Sam Francis, and tells them, prepare. They will strike soon. They originally planned for July 4th, symbolic date, Independence Day. But Nat gets sick and they postpone. August 13th, 1831. The final sign. Another eclipse, or atmospheric phenomenon making the sun appear bluish-green. Nat sees this as God's final command. He sends word to his followers. Sunday, August 21st, Cabin Pond, 2 p.m. Come ready to kill. On Sunday afternoon, 6 men gather. They roast a pig, drink apple brandy to steady their nerves. Nat explains the plan in detail, and at 11 p.m., they begin walking toward Joseph Travis's farm. I have August 22nd, 1831, 1 a.m. The Travis farmhouse is dark. Everyone sleeps. The house is a modest two-story wooden structure. Travis is a wheelwright, not a wealthy planter. He owns just a few enslaved people, including Nat. Nat and his 5 followers approach silently through the darkness. Their plan is surgical. Kill everyone quickly and quietly. Take weapons. Move on before alarm can be raised. Will Francis, the biggest and strongest of the group, climbs through an unlocked window on the first floor. The window creaks as he pushes it open. Everyone freezes. Wait for voices, for alarm. Nothing. Will disappears inside. 30 seconds later, the front door opens from inside. They enter the dark house. Hawk lights a candle with trembling hands. The flame casts huge shadows on the walls. Upstairs, Nat whispers. The stairs are in the center of the house. Wooden steps that creak with every footstep. Nat leads the way carrying a hatchet. Hawk follows with another hatchet. Will carries a fence rail, his preferred weapon. Travis's bedroom is at the top of the stairs. The door is open. In the candlelight, they can see 2 forms in the bed. Joseph Travis and his wife Sally, sleeping peacefully. Nat steps into the room. His hands are shaking. For all his visions, for all his prophetic certainty, this moment is real. He's about to murder a sleeping man. A man who's been relatively kind to him. A man whose only crime is being white and owning slaves. Nat raises the hatchet, tries to steady his breathing. The Spirit commanded this. God wants this. It's necessary. He brings the hatchet down. It's a glancing blow. Nat has never killed before, doesn't know the angle or force required. The hatchet hits Travis's head but only cuts a gash. Travis wakes up screaming. What? Who? Will Francis shoves Nat aside, grabs the hatchet, brings it down with terrible force perfected through years of splitting wood. The hatchet sinks into Travis's skull with a sound like an axe hitting a watermelon. Travis's scream cuts off. Blood everywhere. On the bed, the walls, splattered across Will's face. Sally Travis wakes up, sees her husband's shattered skull, opens her mouth to scream. Will swings the hatchet. Sally's scream ends in a wet gurgle. Hawk vomits in the hallway. Nat stands frozen, looking at the blood. So much blood. The reality of violence is different from the visions. Visions are clean, divine, purposeful. This is just gore and terror and 2 people who were alive 30 seconds ago, now dead in their bed. The children, Nat says quietly. There are 2 children in the house. Putnam Moore, age 5, Sally's son from her first marriage, technically Nat's legal owner, and an apprentice boy around age 10 who sleeps in a back room. They move to Putnam Moore's room. The boy is still asleep somehow, hasn't heard the screaming. He's just a child, sleeping in a small bed with a patchwork quilt his mother made. Melson Williams stands in the doorway, unable to move. Nat. He's 5 years old. I know. He's a baby. The Spirit commands it. Will Francis doesn't hesitate. He brings the fence rail down on the sleeping child's head. Once. The child doesn't wake, doesn't scream, just stops breathing. They find the apprentice boy in the other room, awake now, terrified, trying to hide under his bed. Hawk drags him out. The boy is crying, begging. Please don't. I didn't do anything. Please. Hawk kills him quickly with the hatchet. Tries to make it fast. But there's no fast way to kill a child with a hatchet. 5 people dead in Joseph Travis's house, including 2 children. They take Travis's weapons, several muskets, ammunition, the blood-soaked hatchet, and they leave, walking into the darkness toward the next farm. As they walk, Nat can hear Hawk crying quietly. Nelson is vomiting in the bushes. Sam and Henry look shell-shocked. Only Will Francis seems unaffected. His face is splattered with blood, and he's smiling. How many more? Will asks. Many more, Nat says. We kill them all. Every white person we find. Until the militia comes or until we die. They continue walking. The night is just beginning. You know Geneva. 2 a.m. The killing spreads. They walk in silence through the darkness. 6 men with blood on their hands and weapons they've never properly used. The night air is thick with humidity. Cicadas scream in the trees. Every sound makes them jump. Is that a dog? Is that someone coming? Next farm is Salathiel Francis's place, Nat says. His voice is steady, but his hands won't stop shaking. About a mile from here. Sam, you know the layout? Sam Francis nods. Salathiel Francis is his master. A brutal man who beats his enslaved workers bloody for the smallest infractions. Sam has been planning this moment for years. I know where he sleeps, Sam says. I know which floorboard creaks. I know how to get in without waking the dogs. They approach the Francis farm at 2:30 a.m. The house is larger than Travis's. Francis owns more land, more enslaved people. A dog starts barking from the yard. Everyone freezes. That's old Belle, Sam whispers. She knows me. Let me go first. Sam approaches the dog slowly, speaking softly. Hey, Belle. Hey, girl. It's just Sam. You remember Sam. The dog stops barking, tail wagging. Sam pets her, whispers, Sorry, girl. Your master's gonna die tonight. They enter through the back door. Sam knows where Francis keeps the key hidden, under a loose brick by the back step. The door opens silently. They're inside. Francis sleeps on the second floor. Sam leads them up the stairs, avoiding the third step that creaks, turning left instead of right because the hallway floor on the right side groans under weight. Francis's bedroom door is closed. Sam opens it slowly. Inside, Salathiel Francis sleeps alone. His wife died 2 years ago. He's a large man, over 200 pounds, snoring heavily. Sam doesn't hesitate. He's imagined this moment 1,000 times. He brings the hatchet down on Francis's head with all his strength, all his rage from years of beatings. Francis dies instantly, still snoring, probably never knowing what hit him. They find Francis's weapons, 2 muskets, a pistol, ammunition. More importantly, they find Francis's liquor cabinet. Will Francis cracks open a bottle of whiskey, drinks deeply, passes it around. No, Nat says. We stay sober. We need clear heads. We need courage. Will says, taking another drink. Liquid courage works fine. Nat doesn't argue. He knows he's already losing control of the group. Will is becoming more violent with each killing, getting drunk on blood and whiskey. Hark is barely holding together, vomiting after every murder. Nelson looks like he's in shock. Only Sam seems focused. They leave Francis's house at 3 a.m. Now there are 7 men. They've recruited Jack, one of Francis's enslaved workers who saw what happened and decided to join rather than be left behind as a witness. 3:30 a.m. Piety Reese's house. Piety Reese is a widow living with her adult son, William. They're small farmers, not wealthy, own no enslaved people. They've done nothing to Nat or his group personally. But Nat's logic is absolute. They're white. They participate in the system. They must die. They kill Piety in her bed. She's 60 years old, asleep. Her son William hears the commotion, tries to run. Will Francis catches him in the yard, beats him to death with a fence rail. It takes 8 blows before William stops moving. Hark is vomiting again in the bushes. Nelson is just standing there, staring at nothing. Nat approaches Hark. Brother, I know this is hard, but it's necessary. God commanded it. Did God command us to beat an old woman to death? Hark asks. Because that's what we just did, Nat. We murdered a grandmother. She was a slaver. She didn't own any slaves, I asked Jack. The Reeses didn't own anybody. They were just poor whites trying to survive. Nat's jaw tightens. They're white. They benefit from slavery, even if they don't own slaves directly. They have the option to fight against slavery and chose not to. They're complicit. That's not justice, Nat. That's just murder. It's war. In war, there are casualties. They stare at each other in the darkness. Finally, Hark nods, wipes his mouth, picks up his hatchet. I'm with you. But God help us, Nat. God help us all. She was no date. By 5 a.m., as the first light appears on the horizon, Nat's group has hit 4 more farms. The pattern repeats. Approach silently, kill everyone, take weapons, recruit more men. At each farm, enslaved people face a choice. Join the rebellion, or stay and be implicated anyway. Most join. Some out of desire for freedom, some out of fear if they don't join their witnesses who might testify. Some out of rage, finally having a chance to strike back. By dawn, Nat has about 15 men. They're tired, drunk despite Nat's orders, covered in blood. But they're armed with stolen muskets and growing bolder. 6 a.m. Elizabeth Turner's house. Elizabeth Turner is Nat's former owner, Benjamin Turner's widow, the woman who owned him as a child. She's old now, nearly 70. Lives with her overseer and a neighbor who's visiting. Nat stands outside her bedroom door. Through the wood, he can hear her breathing, raspy, old woman breathing. This is the woman who technically owned him for the first 20 years of his life, who could have freed him, but didn't, who profited from his labor, his intelligence, his body. He opens the door. Elizabeth wakes up, sees Nat standing there with a hatchet.
Nat?
Her voice is confused, not yet afraid. What are you doing here? What's that on your clothes? Is that blood? Another, Mrs. Turner. Nat says formally, I'm sorry, but you must die. Nat, I don't understand. Will Francis pushes past Nat, brings the hatchet down before she can finish her sentence. Kills the overseer and the neighbor quickly, efficiently. They're getting better at this, more practiced. The killing is becoming routine. Nat wants to feel something, remorse, satisfaction, anything, but he just feels numb. The prophetic certainty that carried him this far is fading, replaced by exhaustion and creeping horror at what he's done. But it's too late to stop. They're committed now. All they can do is keep killing and hope they reach Jerusalem before the militia reaches them. Mermoz Yonda, 8 a.m. The Whitehead Massacre. By full morning light, they approach Catherine Whitehead's house. Mrs. Whitehead is a wealthy widow with several adult children, grandchildren, and her elderly mother living with her. This is where the rebellion reaches its most horrifying moment. They burst through the front door just after 8 a.m. The family is having breakfast. Eggs, bacon, biscuits laid out on the dining table. 7 people around the table. Catherine, her adult children Harriet and Richard, her daughter Margaret, her elderly mother, and 2 grandchildren. The family looks up in shock as 15 armed black men pour into the dining room. What is the meaning? Catherine starts to say. Will Francis doesn't let her finish. He swings a fence rail, catches her in the side of the head. She stumbles toward the door. He follows her outside, beats her to death in the yard. It takes 12 blows. The family can hear every impact from inside the house. Richard Whitehead tries to fight. He's a large man, strong. He actually manages to wrestle a musket away from one of Nat's men. But Will comes back inside, covered in Catherine's blood, and beats Richard to death with his bare hands. Margaret Whitehead, age 18, youngest daughter, screams and runs out the back door into the fields. I'll get her, Nat says. He chases Margaret across the field. She's fast, terror giving her speed. But Nat is faster, driven by grim purpose. He catches her near a fence, grabs her dress, pulls her down.
Please,
Margaret sobs.
please, I never hurt anyone.
Please. Nat raises the hatchet. It's dull from all the killing, won't cut cleanly. He brings it down on her head. Once, twice, 3 times. The hatchet is too dull. Margaret is still moving, still making sounds. He drops the hatchet, picks up a fence rail, brings it down on her skull until she stops moving. This is the only murder Nat will later admit to, personally. When Thomas Gray asks him in jail which killings he did himself, Nat will say, "I killed Margaret Whitehead. I had to. She saw me. She knew me. I couldn't let her live to testify." But right now, standing over Margaret's broken body, Nat feels something break inside himself. She was 18. Probably never hurt anyone in her life. And he just beat her to death with a fence rail. Because she was born white. He walks back to the house. Inside, his men have killed Harriet, the elderly mother, and one of the grandchildren. The other grandchild, a boy around 5, is hiding under the dining table. "There's one more," Sam says, pointing to the table. "No," Hawk says. "Nat, please. He's 5 years old. He's just a baby." Nat looks at the child cowering under the table, looks at the blood on his own hands, looks at his men watching him, waiting for orders. "The spirit commands it," Nat says quietly. Will Francis drags the child out from under the table and kills him. 8 people dead at the Whitehead house, including 2 children and an elderly woman. They leave at 9 a.m. Nat's group has grown to maybe 25 men now, but discipline is completely gone. Half are drunk. Some are looting the house, taking silverware, clothes, anything valuable. Some are just standing around in shock, and somewhere in the distance, church bells are ringing. The alarm has been raised. They hit 3 more farms in the next hour. Richard Porter's place, Henry Bryant's farm, William Williams's house. At each location, kill everyone, take weapons, keep moving. Around 10 a.m., they reach Levi Waller's farm. Waller isn't home. He's at his wheelwright shop in town. But his wife is home, hosting a small school for neighborhood children. There are 10 children inside the house, ages 5 to 12. They're having lessons, reading, arithmetic, spelling. The teacher is Mrs. Waller, a kind woman known for being patient with children. Nat's men burst into the schoolroom. The children start screaming. Mrs. Waller stands in front of them, arms spread. "No, please. They're just children. They haven't done anything. Please." Will Francis kills Mrs. Waller first. Then he and several others begin killing the children. Some of Nat's men refuse. Henry Porter walks out of the house. "I can't do this. I won't kill children. Nat, this is wrong." Hawk is on his knees outside, vomiting and sobbing. "God forgive us. God forgive us." But Will and 4 others kill all 10 children. The schoolroom is a nightmare. Small bodies, school books soaked in blood, a chalkboard with the day's spelling words still written on it. When they leave at 10:30, Nat's group has shattered. Several men have deserted, running off into the woods. Others are so drunk they can barely walk. The ones who remain look shell-shocked, barely human, and in the distance, they can hear it. Drums. Militia drums. The white response is coming. By noon Monday, August 22nd, Nat's rebellion has killed approximately 55 to 60 people. About half of them were women and children, but the element of surprise is gone. Church bells have been ringing for hours. Survivors have fled to Jerusalem and spread the alarm. The militia is mobilizing. 300 armed white men at first, then 500. Then by evening, over 3,000 men from Virginia and North Carolina converging on Southampton County. Nat's force now may be 40 men, mostly poorly armed, many drunk, is running out of time. We need to reach Jerusalem now, Nat tells his core group. Get to the armory, arm ourselves properly, then retreat to Dismal Swamp. But to reach Jerusalem, they must pass more farms, and at those farms, whites are ready now. 2 p.m. James Parker's farm. James Parker and several neighbors have barricaded themselves in Parker's house with weapons. When Nat's group approaches, the whites open fire from the windows. It's the first organized resistance Nat's men have faced. The musket volley cuts through them. 3 men fall wounded. The rest panic and scatter into the woods. Nat tries to rally them. Come back! We need to stay together. But it's no use. The group is breaking apart. Some run toward Jerusalem. Some head for Dismal Swamp. Some just disappear into the forest. Nat regroups with maybe 15 men. They try to approach Jerusalem from a different direction. 4 p.m. Peter Edwards's property. The ambush. At Peter Edwards's farm, a militia unit is waiting. 20 armed white men, positioned behind cover. Experienced shooters. When Nat's group comes into view, the militia opens fire. Coordinated volley fire. Reloading in rotation. Disciplined and devastating. Nat's men have never faced real military tactics. They break immediately. Some try to return fire, but they're untrained, shooting wildly. Others just run. In 10 minutes, the battle is over. 5 of Nat's men are dead or dying. The rest have fled in all directions. Nat hides in a drainage ditch, watching his rebellion collapse. It's 4:30 p.m. on Monday, less than 16 hours since they killed Joseph Travis. And it's over. The Prophet's war has failed. Monday evening, alone. By Monday evening, Nat is alone. His entire force has been killed, captured, or scattered. He can hear militia patrols everywhere. Men shouting, dogs barking, horses galloping down roads. He's in woods he knows intimately, less than 2 miles from where he started. He finds a dense thicket, uses a fallen tree and some branches to create a shallow cave, covers the entrance with leaves and brush, crawls inside. The space is maybe 5 feet long, 2 feet high. He can barely move, but he's hidden. He can hear the militia searching. They pass within 10 feet of his hiding spot. He holds his breath, praying they won't look closer. They move on. Night falls. Nat doesn't leave his hole. He's too terrified to move. Week 1. The Terror. For the first week, Nat hides in his hole during the day and emerges only at night to find food. He crawls to nearby cornfields, eats raw corn, drinks from creeks. He's covered in insect bites, his body cramping from being curled in the tiny space. Every day he can hear the search parties. Every day he expects to be found. But somehow the militia misses his hiding spot. He also hears other sounds. Gunshots. Screaming. The sounds of black people being killed in retaliation. The White Terror has begun. Militia and armed mobs are killing any black person they find away from their plantation. Some are enslaved people who had nothing to do with the rebellion. Some are free blacks who've lived peacefully for years. It doesn't matter. White Virginia is lashing out in rage and fear. Nat hears a group of militiamen talking one night as they pass his hiding spot. Found 3 of them hiding in a barn. Shot all 3. Were they part of the rebellion? Who cares? They're all guilty. Every Negro in Southampton is guilty. General Epps says we've killed near 100. Good. Let them all die. Nat curls deeper into his hole, listening to the sound of his people being massacred. This is his fault. He started this, and now innocent people are dying for it. September. The trials begin. Through September, Nat remains in his hole. He emerges only at night, moving like a ghost through the woods he's known since childhood. He's lost dramatic weight, probably 30 pounds. His clothes are rags. His beard has grown long and matted. He can hear the trials happening in Jerusalem. They're hanging his followers one by one. Hark Moore is hanged, September 9th. Nelson Williams on September 17th. Over 20 men who joined the rebellion are executed through September and early October. Nat knows he should run, try to escape north. But he can't bring himself to leave. This is his home. And he needs to see the results of what he's done, needs to witness the terror he's caused, the blood he's spilled. October 30th. Discovery. On October 30th, 69 days after the rebellion began, Benjamin Phipps is hunting in the woods. He's searching for deer, but finds disturbed earth near a fallen tree. He approaches carefully, musket raised, calls out, "Come out or I shoot into the hole!" After a long silence, a figure emerges, skeletal, thin, covered in mud and leaves, barely human. But the eyes still burn with that prophetic fire. "Are you Nat Turner?" "I am." Phipps binds Nat's hands, forces him to walk to Jerusalem. Word spreads quickly. Nat Turner has been captured. Hundreds line the streets to watch the prophet walk to jail. Some throw stones, some spit. Some just stare in silence at the man who killed 60 white people and then vanished for 69 days like a ghost. Of the other Gene, the cell. Southampton County Jail is a small brick building. Nat's cell is 6 feet by 8 feet, with a barred window and chains bolted to the wall. They chain him hand and foot, worried he might somehow escape or kill himself. The first night, Nat just lies on the stone floor and sleeps. Real sleep, for the first time in 69 days. When he wakes, he's disoriented. Thinks for a moment he's still in his hole in the ground. Then reality crashes back. He's captured. He's going to hang. And before he hangs, they're going to want answers. Thomas Gray arrives. On November 1st, a white man enters Nat's cell. He's 31 years old, well-dressed, carrying paper and ink. His name is Thomas Ruffin Gray. Lawyer, plantation owner, pro-slavery ideologue. "Mr. Turner," Gray says formally, sitting on a stool across from Nat. "I want to interview you. I want to publish your confession. You'll have a chance to explain your visions, your motivations. Otherwise, you'll just hang as a mad dog murderer. This is your chance to be understood." Nat studies Gray carefully. He knows this is a trap. Gray will use the confession to prove enslaved people are dangerously fanatical. But Nat also knows this might be his only chance to testify about God's will. "I'll talk to you," Nat says, "but I won't lie. I'll tell you exactly why I did what I did, and you must write down exactly what I say." Agreed. For 3 days, Gray sits in Nat's cell writing down everything Nat tells him. The childhood visions, the signs from God, the eclipse, the rebellion, the murders. Key conversation, November 2nd. Gray asks, "Did you feel remorse? When you killed Margaret Whitehead, did you feel anything?" Nat is silent for a long moment. Then, "I felt what I needed to feel. Nothing more, nothing less." That's not an answer. It's the only answer I have. The Spirit commanded me to kill. I killed. If I felt remorse, I wouldn't have been obeying God. If I felt pleasure, I would have been serving Satan. I felt purpose. I felt that I was doing what I was born to do. Even when you killed children, even then. Do you regret it now? The children, at least. Nat looks at Gray steadily. Do you regret slavery? The children ripped from their mothers. The women raped. The men worked to death. Do you regret that? That's different. How? Slavery is the natural order. It's in the Bible. Don't quote scripture to me. Nat interrupts. His voice is sharp for the first time. I know scripture better than you. And I know God commanded me to kill, just as he commanded the Israelites to kill every Canaanite child. Was God wrong then? Or is he wrong now? Gray has no answer to this. He just keeps writing. November 5th. The trial. Nat's trial lasts one day. The courtroom is packed. Every white person in Southampton County wants to see the prophet judged. The evidence is overwhelming. Multiple witnesses. Nat's own confession to Gray. Physical evidence at the murder scenes. The court-appointed defense lawyer makes a brief argument that Nat is insane, that religious delusions made him unable to distinguish right from wrong. Nat interrupts his own trial. I'm not insane. I knew exactly what I was doing. The Spirit commanded me and I obeyed. I'd do it again if God commanded it. The jury deliberates less than an hour. Verdict: guilty of insurrection and murder. Sentence: death by hanging, November 11th, 1831. The judge asks, "Do you have anything to say?" Nat stands, looks around the courtroom at the white faces staring at him with hatred, speaks clearly, "I have nothing to say except that I did what I believed God commanded me to do, and I will answer to God, not to you." He's led back to his cell to await execution. Wynothes Jonver, November 11th, 1831. 1831, 6 a.m., final morning. Nat wakes in his cell before dawn on Friday, November 11th. He knows what day it is, has been counting down to it for 6 days since his trial. The jailer brings breakfast, cornmeal mush and water. Nat refuses it. He's been fasting since his conviction, preparing his body and spirit for what's coming. He's lost so much weight that the chains on his wrists hang loose. "You should eat," the jailer says, not unkindly. "No point dying on an empty stomach." "I'm not dying on an empty stomach," Nat replies. "I'm dying full of the Spirit." The jailer shrugs and leaves. Nat sits in the corner of his cell and prays. Not for rescue. He knows that's impossible. Not for mercy. He doesn't expect any. He prays for his people. For the enslaved people still in bondage. For the ones killed in retaliation. For Hark and Nelson and all his followers who've already been hanged. And he prays that his death means something. That the blood he spilled and the blood about to be spilled from his own body will somehow shake the foundations of slavery. 9 a.m. The crowd gathers. By 9 a.m., several thousand people have gathered in Jerusalem to watch Nat Turner hang. They've come from all over Southampton County and beyond. White families bringing children, militiamen who hunted him, victims' relatives who want to see him die. The gallows stands in the center of town, visible from every direction. It's a simple structure: wooden platform, crossbeam, noose. But it's built strong, because the crowd wants to make sure it doesn't collapse before Nat dies. Sarah Turner, a white woman whose husband and 2 children were killed at Levi Waller's farm, stands at the front of the crowd. She's 32 years old, has been a widow for less than 3 months. Her eyes are dead, all tears cried out. Next to her stands James Whitehead, brother of Margaret Whitehead, whom Nat killed personally. James is 26, barely holding his rage together. He's carrying a musket, hoping to be chosen as part of the firing squad if they decide to shoot Nat instead of hanging him. But there will be no firing squad. The authorities want a hanging, want Nat to strangle slowly so everyone can watch. 10 a.m. The walk. At 10 a.m., the guards come for Nat. They unlock his chains from the wall but leave his hands bound behind his back. Walk him out of the jail into the bright November sunlight. The crowd erupts, shouting, jeering, throwing garbage. Someone throws a stone that hits Nat in the shoulder. Another stone hits his head, opening a cut above his eye. Blood runs down his face. "Murderer! Baby killer! Burn in hell!" Nat walks steadily through the crowd, eyes forward, face expressionless. He's been preparing for this moment for 69 days in hiding and 10 days in jail. He's ready. They load him into a wagon for the short ride to the gallows. The wagon moves slowly through the crowd. People press close, trying to touch him, spit on him, strike him. A young white boy, maybe 10 years old, manages to get close enough to the wagon to shout, "My cousin was at the school!" "You killed her. She was 6 years old." Nat looks at the boy, wants to say something, wants to explain that he did it for freedom. The children had to die so enslaved children could be free someday. But what explanation could possibly justify killing a 6-year-old girl? So Nat says nothing, just looks at the boy until the wagon moves on. 11 a.m. The gallows. The wagon arrives at the gallows. Guards help Nat down, help him because he's so weak from fasting and imprisonment that he can barely walk. They lead him up the 13 steps to the platform. The crowd goes silent. Everyone wants to hear if Nat will speak, if he'll show fear, if he'll recant. The sheriff, a heavy man named James Tresvant, addresses the crowd. Nat Turner has been convicted of murder and insurrection. He will now face the punishment prescribed by law. Does anyone here have legal objection to this execution? Silence. Tresvant turns to Nat. Do you have any last words? Nat looks out at the crowd. Thousands of white faces staring at him with hatred. He sees the relatives of his victims, sees the militiamen who hunted him, sees children being held up by their parents so they can watch him die. He speaks loudly enough for everyone to hear. I am ready. That's all. No dramatic speech, no apology, no explanation. Just readiness. The executioner, a man named Reuben Gray, no relation to Thomas Gray, places the noose around Nat's neck, adjusts it carefully. The rope is thick, rough against Nat's skin. Any prayers? Gray asks quietly. I've been praying for 69 days. Nat whispers back. I'm done praying now. Gray steps back, checks the rope one more time, looks at Sheriff Tresvant for the signal. Tresvant nods. Gray pulls the lever. The floor drops. Nat falls. The hanging. 11:17 a.m. The rope catches Nat's weight with a snap. But the drop isn't long enough. His neck doesn't break cleanly. Instead of instant death, he strangles slowly. His body convulses, feet kicking air, searching for ground that isn't there. Face turning purple, eyes bulging, tongue protruding from his mouth. The crowd watches in silence as Nat Turner, the prophet, the warrior, the murderer, slowly suffocates at the end of a rope. It takes 4 minutes for him to die. 4 minutes of choking, convulsing, dying by inches, while thousands watch. Sarah Turner, the widow whose family was killed, watches every second. Doesn't blink, doesn't look away. When Nat finally goes still, she whispers, "Good." James Whitehead watches too. He wanted Nat to suffer longer. 4 minutes doesn't seem like enough for what Nat did to Margaret. At 11:17 a.m., the doctor checks for pulse, pronounces Nat Turner dead. The crowd begins to disperse. Some satisfied, some disappointed. They wanted more suffering, wanted Nat to scream or beg. Some just relieved it's over. But Nat Turner's ordeal is not over. What happens to his body next will haunt Virginia for 2 centuries. Asterisk. The desecration. November 11th, afternoon. The dissection. Nat's body hangs for an hour to ensure death. Then it's cut down and transported to Dr. Dryden Jordan's office. Jordan is a local physician who's been authorized to dissect the body for medical study. But this isn't normal medical dissection. This is punishment that extends beyond death. Jordan's office is on the 2nd floor of a building in Jerusalem. He has a large wooden table where he performs examinations. Today, 6 other doctors have gathered to witness and assist. They lay Nat's body on the table. His neck is bruised from the rope, tongue still protruding, eyes half open. They strip off his clothes, the ragged prison clothes he's been wearing for 10 days. Dr. Jordan makes the first incision, sternum to pubis, opening Nat's chest and abdomen. He's searching for anatomical abnormalities that might explain Nat's fanaticism. Enlarged organs, malformed brain. Anything that could prove Nat was physically defective. The lungs appear normal. Jordan narrates for the other doctors. Heart is slightly enlarged, but that's common in manual laborers. Liver, normal. Kidneys, normal. They find nothing unusual. Nat's organs are healthy and normal despite 69 days of hiding and starvation. His body shows the wear of slavery, old scars from beatings, malformed fingers from injuries never properly treated. But no anatomical reason for his rebellion. Open the skull, one doctor says. The brain is where the madness must be. Jordan takes a saw and cuts through Nat's skull. Removes the top of his head, exposing the brain. They examine it carefully. Again, nothing unusual. No tumors. No malformations. No physical explanation for Nat's visions or violence. He appears to have been anatomically normal. Jordan concludes, the insurrection cannot be attributed to physical defect. This finding is disappointing to the doctors. They wanted physical proof that Nat was abnormal, defective, less than human. Instead, they've found that he was just a man who made a choice. The skinning. After the dissection, something grotesque happens. One of the doctors, accounts don't specify which one, suggests that Nat's skin should be preserved as a memento. They skin his corpse, carefully remove the skin from his body, starting with large sections from his back and chest. The skin is treated with chemicals to preserve it, then tanned like leather. Is this documented conclusively? No clear primary source says we skinned Nat Turner, but multiple secondary sources from the 1830s to 1900s mention it. 1831 newspaper account. Turner's body has been used to make memento objects. 1900. Virginia historian. It was said that his skin was preserved and made into purses. 1960s oral history. Elderly Black Virginians remember hearing from their grandparents that Nat's skin became souvenirs. The most specific reference comes from a 2016 New York Times op-ed, where a historian recounts a student telling her that their Virginia family possesses a purse allegedly made from Nat Turner's skin, passed down through generations. Whether skin purses were actually made is unverifiable. But the fact that the story has persisted for 194 years, that multiple sources across generations reference it, suggests something horrific happened to Nat's body beyond normal medical dissection. The grease. The remaining flesh on Nat's body, after the skin is removed, is reportedly rendered into grease, boiled down to fat that some sources claim was used for machine oil or soap. Again, this is difficult to verify, but a 1900 account states, the Negro Nat's body was disposed of in a manner most peculiar, with various parts distributed as curiosities. The bones. Nat's skeleton is distributed as souvenirs. Different Virginia families claim to possess his bone. His skull is allegedly preserved by a doctor and passed through several families. His femur is claimed by another family. Various other bones are kept as trophies, curiosities, warnings. The skull specifically becomes a legend. For 171 years, it's allegedly passed through Virginia families as a ghoulish heirloom. The White Terror, November 1831. While Nat's body is being desecrated, Southampton County continues its revenge on the living. The retaliation killings. In the weeks after Nat's execution, armed white mobs kill an estimated 100 to 200 black people in Southampton County, and surrounding areas. Most have nothing to do with the rebellion. November 15th, 1831. A scene. A white militia patrol finds 3 black men walking on a road 5 miles from Jerusalem. The men are enslaved to a plantation owner who sent them to town on an errand. They have papers proving they're authorized to travel. "You boys part of Nat's rebellion?" the militia captain asks. "No, sir," one of the men says quickly. "We just go into town for Master Williams. We got papers." "I don't care about papers. Every Negro in Southampton is guilty." The militia shoots all 3 men and leaves their bodies by the roadside as a warning. November 20th, 1831. A free black family, the Johnsons, has lived in Southampton County for 2 generations. The father is a carpenter, owns his own home, has never been enslaved. They're peaceful, respected by some whites, bother no one. A mob burns their house down. The father tries to save his children, runs back inside. The mob bars the door. The entire family burns to death. Mother, father, 4 children. No one is prosecuted. The heads on poles. Some black people killed in retaliation have their heads severed and mounted on poles along roads. The heads remain there for weeks, rotting in the November weather, warning enslaved people what happens if they rebel. A white Virginia minister travels through Southampton County in December 1831 and writes in his diary, "Saw the most horrid sight, the heads of Negroes on poles along the roadside. The smell was insufferable. Asked a local man why they were displayed thus. He said, 'So every Negro knows what happens if they forget their place.' God help us all." Asterisk. General Epps's admission. General Richard Epps, who commanded the militia response, later writes to Virginia's governor, "I am sorry to say that the slaughter of blacks in this county since the insurrection has been hardly inferior to the slaughter committed by Nat Turner and his deluded followers. Many Negroes have been killed who were entirely innocent." Asterisk. But no one is punished for these killings. In Virginia law, killing an enslaved person without their owner's permission is destruction of property, a civil matter, not criminal. And killing free blacks during an insurrection emergency is legal. By Christmas 1831, Southampton County has returned to order. Slavery continues, but every white person and every black person knows. Nat Turner's rebellion terrified Virginia to its core. "I've the stage shift." Virginia's response. 1832. January 1832. The debate. Virginia's legislature holds emergency session. For 2 months, lawmakers debate a question once unthinkable. Should Virginia abolish slavery? The debate is serious. Some legislators argue, Nat Turner proved slavery cannot continue safely. We live on top of a powder keg. Every night we sleep, they could rise up and murder us. We must gradually emancipate them and send them to Africa. Others argue, Nat Turner proved we need stronger controls, not emancipation. We need laws preventing them from learning to read, from gathering, from having any avenue to organize. Slavery is too profitable to abandon. The debate comes to a vote in late January. The vote is close. 73 against abolition, 58 for gradual emancipation. Virginia chooses to keep slavery and to make it harsher. The new laws. March 1832. Virginia passes sweeping new laws designed to prevent another Nat Turner. 1. Enslaved people forbidden from preaching or holding religious meetings. Nat was a preacher, so all black preachers are banned. 2. Teaching enslaved people to read or write is now a criminal offense. Nat learned to read, so literacy is outlawed. 3. Free black people must leave Virginia within 1 year or be re-enslaved. Reduces free black population from 50,000 to 20,000 by 1840. 4. Enslaved people cannot assemble in groups larger than 5. Prevents organizing. 5. Increased patrols. Armed whites monitor roads nightly. These laws spread across the South. Every slave state tightens control. The brief moment when abolition seemed possible slams shut. Nat's rebellion, intended to end slavery, has made it harsher. 1873. The confession is published again. 42 years after Nat's execution, Thomas Gray's Confessions of Nat Turner is reprinted. A black newspaper editor in Ohio writes, "This document proves what we have always said. Nat Turner was not mad. He was rational, strategic, driven by moral certainty that slavery could only end through violence. History will remember him as the man who terrified Virginia into understanding that slavery cannot continue peacefully." But most white Americans dismiss this. Nat Turner remains forgotten, erased, an embarrassment to both North and South. Olomizioima, 2002. The skull resurfaces. May 2002. A white woman in her 70s contacts Dr. Natalie Sweat, an African-American historian at the College of William and Mary. The woman's voice is shaky on the phone. "Dr. Sweat, my family has something we shouldn't have. We've had it since 1831. I think it's time to give it back." "What is it?" Dr. Sweat asks. "We have Nat Turner's skull in a box in my closet. My great-great-grandfather was one of the doctors who dissected his body. He kept the skull. It's been passed down through 5 generations. I want to bury it properly." Dr. Sweat drives to the woman's house in rural Virginia. The woman leads her to a closet, pulls out a wooden box. Inside is a human skull. Male, the right age, with trauma consistent with hanging, damage to vertebrae where the rope snapped neck. "Is it really his?" the woman asks. "I don't know," Dr. Sweat says honestly. "Without DNA from confirmed descendants, we can't prove it. But it could be." The skull is placed with Gary Fonville, a civil rights activist, for safekeeping while plans are made for proper burial. 2016. The skull's fate uncertain. In 2016, after Fonville's death, his family disagrees about what to do with the skull. Some want immediate burial. Some want scientific study. Some want to keep it in the family. Legal battles ensue. As of 2025, the skull's exact location is unknown. It exists somewhere, in someone's possession, waiting for resolution. Asterisk. 2016. The family heirloom. October 2016. The New York Times publishes an op-ed by Dr. Christina Snyder, a historian. She recounts, "A student came to my office hours and mentioned casually that her Virginia family possesses a purse allegedly made from Nat Turner's skin. She said it's been in her family since the 1830s, passed down with stories about the Negro insurrection. She asked if I thought it was real. I didn't know what to say. The student's family never allows scientific testing. They keep the purse, if that's what it is, as a private family heirloom. No one outside the family has seen it. Is it real? We don't know. But the fact that a Virginia family in 2016 still possesses an object they believe is made from Nat Turner's skin and considers it a family heirloom shows how his desecration echoes through time. Olomizioima, June 2023. The Nat Turner Project, a group of activists and descendants, announces plans to bury the skull, assuming it's Nat's, in Southampton County with full honors. But descendants of Nat's victims object. Martha Waller, great-great-great-granddaughter of one of the school children murdered. My ancestor was 6 years old. Nat Turner killed her. Why does he get a hero's burial? Why is he honored while she's forgotten. Response from James Turner, a black activist, no relation. Nat Turner fought against slavery. He killed in war against an evil system. The children's deaths are tragic but cannot negate his fight for freedom. Martha's response: he beat children to death with a fence rail. There's no justifying that. I don't care what cause he fought for. The argument becomes national news. Cable news shows debate: was Nat Turner a hero or terrorist? Can killing children ever be justified in war? Should we honor violent resistance to slavery? The questions have no easy answers. The planned burial is postponed indefinitely. As of October 2025, the skull, if it is Nat's skull, remains unburied, caught in the same moral complexity that has defined Nat Turner's legacy for 194 years. October 2025. A journalist and a historian walk the Nat Turner Trail in Southampton County, Virginia, a driving tour of rebellion sites marked with historical plaques. They stop at the site where Joseph Travis's house stood. Nothing remains. The house burned down decades ago. Just an empty field and a historical marker. On this site, August 22nd, 1831, Nat Turner's rebellion began. 5 people were killed here, including 2 children. The rebellion resulted in approximately 60 white deaths and 100 to 200 black deaths in retaliation. The journalist reads the marker and asks, "How are we supposed to feel about this?" The historian thinks for a long moment, then says, "Complicated. We're supposed to feel complicated. Nat Turner killed children, which is indefensible. But he killed them in a war against slavery, which was itself the systematic murder of millions. He terrified Virginia into understanding slavery couldn't continue peacefully, which accelerated its end. But his rebellion also made slavery harsher in the short term. He was prophet and murderer, hero and terrorist, deeply religious and deeply violent. History doesn't give us simple heroes. It gives us humans making impossible choices in evil systems. They drive to the next site. At each location, Whitehead's farm, Waller's school, the place where Nat hid for 69 days, the same complexity, the same uncomfortable questions. Can you honor someone who fought slavery while condemning how he fought it? Can you mourn white children killed while acknowledging they would have grown into slaveholders? Can you celebrate black resistance while reckoning with its victims? Southampton County has no answers, just markers in empty fields where blood was spilled 194 years ago, and the stains still remain. Somewhere in Southampton County, Virginia, is an unmarked grave. Maybe. No one knows for sure where Nat Turner's body, what remained after the desecration, was buried. Some say behind the jail. Some say in a potter's field. Some say it was never buried, just dumped. In 2025, the grave has no marker, no stone, no plaque. Nothing to indicate that here lies the man who killed 60 people to strike a blow against slavery. But sometimes, on August 22nd, small groups gather in Southampton County. Mostly black families, descendants of enslaved people. They don't know the exact spot, so they gather near where the jail stood and hold a memorial. They say his name, Nat Turner. They acknowledge the complexity, prophet and murderer, hero and killer, freedom fighter who killed children. And they remember, in 1831, an enslaved man terrified Virginia, made whites understand that slavery could not continue without blood, forced America to confront the violence inherent in bondage. 60 white people died. Then Nat died. Then 100+ black people died in retaliation. Then 630,000 died in the Civil War that ended slavery 34 years later. All that blood, all that death. And we still argue about whether Nat Turner was hero or villain, which means we still haven't reconciled with slavery's legacy, which means Nat Turner's ghost still walks Southampton County. Which means his story still matters. Say his name. Nat Turner. Born enslaved 1800. Killed 60 people 1831. Hanged November 11th, 1831. Body skinned. Flesh rendered into grease, bones scattered as trophies. Skin allegedly made into purses. The prophet who terrified Virginia. The murderer who killed children. The man whose blood still stains American history. Remember him. Not to celebrate, not to condemn, but to confront the truth. Slavery was so evil that violent resistance was inevitable. And that resistance produced victims who haunt us 194 years later.